Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. At the outset, I would request all of you to kindly put your mobiles in the silent mode. The best mode would be the switch off mode, but since there's a huge youth population, the future of our country, I would request all of you to kindly put straight away into the silent mode and do not indulge in sending SMSs. This is a very important opportunity and a golden opportunity for all of us here in Karnataka, Namma Bengaluru. The proceedings will begin in a couple of minutes' time. So I would request all of you, some of the friends who are at the sites, kindly go back and take your seats. In just a bit, we are starting the proceedings. It's a matter of great privilege. The Honorable Minister of External Affairs is already here, and also the Honorable Minister, State Food and Civil Supplies is also here. So a couple of minutes, we would be starting the program. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, in the interest of time, we are starting the program, and Shri N.A. Harris would join us a little later. So put your hands together. It's indeed a matter of great privilege and pleasure to welcome Shri Salman Khurshid, the Honorable Minister for External Affairs, Government of India. Kindly come over to the podium, sir. I would also request Shri Dinesh Gundu Rao, Honorable Minister of State for Food and Civil Supplies, Government of Karnataka. Dinesh Gundu Rao avarigu saha swagata, suswagata. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's indeed a matter of great privilege for all of us, the citizens of Karnataka. A new initiative has begun, and we are all privileged to be here. The Public Diplomacy Division, as we are all aware, is known to advance India's conversation with the world. So on behalf of Public Diplomacy Division, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India and the Government of Karnataka, I am Shankar Prakash, extending a very, very warm welcome to all of you for an excellent evening and an important evening in the lives of all of us. So, Tammellarigu Adarada, Hruthpurvaka Swagata, Suswagata. I would, as a token of love and affection from the entire citizen fraternity of Karnataka, I would request the Honorable Minister for External Affairs, Shri Salman Khurshid, to kindly accept a bouquet. Shri Salman Khurshid avarige Karnatakada ಜನತೆಯ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತ ಸರ್. I would also request Shri Dinesh Gundu Rao to kindly accept a bouquet. Karnataka on the move, particularly in the food and civil supplies. Shri Dinesh Gundu Rao avarige swagata. At the outset, I would request Shri Dinesh Gundu Rao to initiate the proceedings with the introductory remarks and the formal welcome. Over to you, sir.
Respected Shri Salman Khurshid ji, Honorable Union Minister for External Affairs, Shri Chakravarti, Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Shri S.V. Rangana, Chief Secretary, Government of Karnataka, distinguished invitees, members of civil society, representatives of academic institutions, representatives of the media, students from various colleges, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure today to welcome Shri Salman Khurshid to Bangalore and specifically to this function. I would like to take this opportunity to convey my sincere compliments to the Union Minister for this novel initiative of interacting with the cross-section of society on the matters relating to external affairs through the public policy address. I understand that this is the first such interaction Shri Salman Khurshid ji is having, and this will be followed by a similar interaction in few other cities. Sir, I think it's very appropriate that you are starting with Bangalore, which is truly representative of an international city in terms of its business with foreign countries and interactions with international scientific and academic communities. Bangalore is often referred as IT capital of India, and exports from IT sector alone is more than $25 billion during the last year. More than 400 out of the Fortune 500 companies have outsourcing operations in Bangalore. We have 85 chip designing houses in Bangalore, and these designs are used by various multinational companies across the world. There are nearly 400 R&D institutions, both in public and private sector, in Bangalore alone, and over 50,000 PhDs work in Bangalore. Many of these R&D centers have international collaborations, and Bangalore is also a biotech cluster and is also known for its aerospace, automobile, machine tool sectors, etc. All these sectors have different kinds of linkages to entities located all over the world. In addition, Bangalore is home to several important institutions like Indian Space Research Organization, Bharat Electronics Limited, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Indian Institute of Science, the Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research, IIM, National Law School, etc., where a fair amount of interaction exists with foreign institutions and universities and students' groups. Bangalore also has an active civil society with many of the organizations getting funding from international agencies. Sir, today the gathering here consists of representatives of all the above-mentioned groups, including students, who I am sure are very eager to hear your talk, followed by the interactive session. Before I end, I would like to place a few points for your kind consideration on behalf of the Government of Karnataka. Firstly, we request your kind intervention in taking up the issue of movement of IT personnel to USA with the concerned government, as this is becoming a major concern for the IT industry in Bangalore. Secondly, we frequently get complaints that the visas issued to some foreign nationals are delayed and a fair amount of additional documentation like income tax returns are sought for. I request your kind self to review this matter and make efforts to simplify the process so as to enable easy travel of the expats and foreigners to our country. Lastly, I would like to submit that Indian companies, R&D organizations, and academic institutions are increasingly engaged with foreign entities. In this context, I request you to kindly ensure that the Indian embassies, consulates, and trade missions have more interaction with Indian companies and organizations so that they can promote them more effectively abroad. With these words, I once again welcome the Honorable Minister for External Affairs, Sri Salman Khurshid, to this public policy address. He is, after all, the son-in-law of Bangalore City. His wife, his mother-in-law, they all reside here. So he's one of us. He's one of our own representatives. And also, on behalf of the Chief Minister of Karnataka, he was unable to come today. He wanted to come over here, but unfortunately, due to the proceedings in the Assembly and tomorrow being his reply on the budget, he has to prepare himself for that, so he has kindly excused himself. So I request you to kindly excuse the Chief Minister for not coming for this program, and I hope that this session takes place in a very good manner. I'm sure that Salman Khurshid ji will be able to reply to most of your queries, and it will be a wonderful interactive session. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Minister has voiced the sentiments of the entire citizen fraternity of Karnataka. He's expressed pleasure for the presence of the Honourable Minister for External Affairs. Let's all give a round of applause to Shri Dinesh Gundurao for initiating the proceedings. Thank you, sir. Well, we also have on the podium Shri N.A. Harris. On behalf of all of us, I would request Mr. Harris to kindly accept a bouquet. Harris avarige adaರದ ಸ್ವಾಗತ ಸುಸ್ವಾಗತ. We also, of course, acknowledge the presence of Shri Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. And most of us here will know more about today as a starter for what exactly is in store for all of us. So, with a huge round of applause, let's welcome Shri Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti onto the podium, the Secretary, ER, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, for his presentation. Welcome to you, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Ministers, MLA, my old colleagues from the Foreign Service, distinguished civil servants, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Public diplomacy is a term that was coined some decades back, but it is not a new thing. I think states, monarchs, kingdoms have been conducting, and individuals too have been conducting public diplomacy for ages. However, this has become a discipline now. Most major foreign offices across the world have all opened public diplomacy divisions, and we also did it in 2006. Now, what is public diplomacy? Public diplomacy is the framework of activities by which a government seeks to influence public attitudes in a manner that they become supportive of foreign policy objectives and national interests. In other words, foreign policy is no longer the domain of some few people sitting in Delhi or elsewhere in one closed room and deciding for the rest of the country what our foreign policy should be. Foreign policy, of course, is also part of our national policy. And if our national policy basically seeks a transformation of India, then I think, and we all think, that foreign policy must also play that role. What is our mission statement? The Public Diplomacy Division seeks to create better understanding of India and its foreign policy concerns. We intend to put in place a system that enables us to engage more effectively with our citizens in India and with the global audiences that have an interest in foreign policy issues. I think Minister Gundu Rao laid out very lucidly as to why we have chosen Bangalore to kick off our program. Our program will take us to almost every state in India, where we will involve all stakeholders in our foreign policy initiatives. It will be interactive. It cannot be a one-way dialogue. It has to be, we want to learn, we want to understand. Everybody has an opinion. Today on Facebook, I don't know how many, 1 billion people on Facebook, they're all having an opinion. We have 900 million cell phones in India, and if they are all connected, they will all have an opinion. So with that, let me go to what does PD do. PD is we use very frequently as a short form for public diplomacy. We commission books on India, we do documentaries, we have digitized a lot of documentaries and put them on the YouTube. We organize film festivals, we do a magazine called India Perspectives in 14 languages. We support missions in organizing seminars, missions meaning our embassies. And we have outreach in India where we sponsor distinguished lectures, series lectures, making foreign policy accessible to the young, particularly the students. And we also cooperate with the chambers of commerce and conduct foreign policy forums so that businessmen, particularly who are exporters particularly and other investors abroad, or who are having tie-ups and joint ventures, understand where our foreign policies goals are, what our foreign policy goals are. And last but not the least is the International Relations Conference that we have started since 2011. We will have the third this year. This is an annual event that we are organizing, where we get in all the institutions across India to come to Delhi, and we have a regular program of presentation of papers on foreign policy. And what's good about it is that we are trying to build this as a brand, because last year we invited, we put it on the website, and we had 40 foreign scholars wanting to come and present papers. And I'm afraid, I'm sure this year we'll have many more. Outreach activities that we do, distinguished lecture series is something that we have done quite a few, hundreds of them I think, where our former ambassadors and others go out into various parts of the country to talk about foreign policy and talk about issues that concern perhaps that part of the country and India in general. The other thing that we have started doing is to engage in a very selective manner young parliamentarians, for example, out of Africa. And we have done that for women parliamentarians in Nepal. Now this is because we do have a special focus on Africa. Our trade with Africa over the last 7 years has increased up to about 65 billion. We have a 10 billion line of credit since 2003, and we have a huge number of Africans who've been trained in our ITEC programs. Now we also helped Africa to establish the Pan-African e-network. The Nepalese delegation came in because it was part of the Constituent Assembly, and we wanted to engage with them, and it cut across all party lines. Conferences and seminars is something that we do constantly, and with FICCI, with CII, the Center for Policy Research, and with various other institutions all over the country. Now, the International Relations Conference, the third edition of which we shall have this year, end of this year, and you can see on the slide there the National Security Advisor being interviewed. Now, this has created, as I mentioned, a lot of interest in foreign policy activities, and to engage with serving foreign service officers who are dealing with various areas, and professors and students, they have come to these conferences to interact. One collateral interest that we promote through this is to generate interest among our younger students and colleagues so that they join the Foreign Service. Now, beyond this, why are we here? Because the states in India are increasingly getting involved in foreign policy issues. The Constitution of India, of course, puts external affairs in the central list, and the states naturally don't have any role in it constitutionally. But we think that this is part of our exercise, that to bring in all the stakeholders and all the states into this process, because without the support of the states, it would be very difficult to run foreign policy, at least. I don't want to get into specifics, but states can impede sometimes our foreign policy initiatives. The books that we do, there are several coffee table books. India for a Billion Reasons, then India, the Spirit of Enterprise. These focus on various aspects of India. These are distributed widely to policymakers across the world. And of course, our cultural and soft power attributes, yoga. And then we come to what we think is something that we have successfully done, and we have made a pioneering effort. This is our presence on the digital, or what we call the digital footprint, or our domain on the digital diplomacy. Here you will see that we are present in various social networks, including Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and this has given us a huge outreach to the world at large. The kind of hits we get, the kind of comments we get, is quite extraordinary, and there are millions and millions. We did a collaborative venture with Discovery Channel on the Golden Temple, which got 40 million hits, which is something we can never even imagine to get through other conventional means. YouTube, which has collaborated with us to help us put many of our documentaries, which we digitized and put on the net, and that's the page, I think, on YouTube, and I don't know whether it is technically feasible to click on one of the documentaries, and we could quickly show you 1 or 2 minutes of that. It says not connected, so I think we'll move on. Is it possible, Savitri? Okay, so we are not connected to the network, so I really can't show you a clip of and on Facebook we have about 150,000 people coming in every day to log in and leave their comments. And interestingly, these are people from all over the world, but the bulk of it is from our neighbors and up to Southeast Asia. And the age group is about 18 to 25, but slowly we are populating this domain with content, and we find that now more and more people between the age group up to 35 are now coming in. So Twitter also we have, and we do a lot of tweets every day, inviting attention to things in India and to our own digital space, and we have about 100,000 followers on Twitter. YouTube, I have already spoken about. Unfortunately, we couldn't show you the clip. Africa is something that we have concentrated on, and there are several initiatives on Africa, and some of these slides will show you. Basically, we have several followers from Africa because of the fact that we put in about $10 billion in terms of our LOC, the lines of credit. So we did concentrate on Africa, and that is something that we have succeeded in penetrating some of the institutions all over Africa. We did also something called India Is. I think India Is, which is like which was a competition where we asked people to upload a clip of a few minutes or a photograph, and this was sort of in a competition mode, and then we selected winners from entries that came in from all over the world, and then of course we got our minister to give away the prizes. I think that's in the next slide. So this was one of our most successful programs, and we actually partnered with Incredible India, and our corporate partners were Google India, Condé Nast Traveler India, and SAF's Avid Learning and Taj Holidays. So we are actually collaborating with private groups for these programs. Now I come to our more conventional kind of the thing that we do and we have been doing is India Perspectives, which is now also online, but it is also produced. Hard copies are also produced, and it goes out in 14 languages. There are 5 online editions: Arabic, Spanish, French, English, Portuguese, and our worldwide circulation is above 60,000. But the online ones, not including the online, but we print about more than 60,000 copies for distribution, and these are available in these languages. There are many, many more things that I could talk about here today, but I think we have paucity of time, and we are constrained by time. So thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, engage more effectively with the citizens of India. The mission itself instills a great sense of optimism in all of us. Let's all thank Shri Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti for his excellent presentation and, of course, taking India forward with the public. Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Well, the time has now come for all of us. It's a privilege and pleasure to request Shri Salman Khurshid, Honorable Minister for External Affairs, for a very, very special address, the public policy address, and this is happening for the first time in India, here in Dhamma, Bangalore. Please welcome Shri Salman Khurshid, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a great honor to be here and to find such a wonderful audience, so many in number, and I'm sure that the quality exceeds the number. I'm greatly privileged that somebody whose politics one has admired greatly from Delhi, Mr. Dinesh Gundu Rao, distinguished son of a distinguished father, Honorable Minister for Food and Civil Supplies, is here, and that I had the privilege to be welcomed by him. Also, my friend and colleague, Mr. Harris, again a distinguished representative of the people. Good fortune to have both this morning and now Chief Secretary Mr. Ranganath and his senior colleagues who participated in our discussion this morning with the CEOs who are all here. Some very distinguished members of the government are here. I have a lot of friends that I have known over the years, people who I value and cherish enormously. Professor Vashne is here from Brown University. Also, my schoolmate, senior to me, Dr. Gurunath Kilara, who's my vice head boy, is here, and some very distinguished members of the Indian Foreign Service are here who've settled in Bengaluru, for whom this must be like very well-known stuff. But I think what Mr. Chakravarti tried to do, the Secretary tried to do, is to present to you the new face of our outreach to the world, and indeed to people at home in India, for them to understand what India's foreign policy is. This wasn't a lecture on foreign policy, therefore he couldn't go into deeper content, but the message and the method that we use is what he tried to reach out to you. Of course, we have here, I believe, some very distinguished academics. We have here, of course, very important citizens of Bengaluru, and most of all, I believe there's some very young people here who I thought I must catch today, at least catch their fancy, and ensure that I can convert some of them into committing themselves to a career in the Foreign Service. It's a good service. It's an outstanding contribution to our national achievement and our national aspiration. And I've seen it from close quarters. I didn't join the Foreign Service myself, and I regret that I didn't join the Foreign Service. They're much better off than the ministers, I can assure you. So try becoming a Foreign Service officer. We've come here, as you were told briefly, we've come here because I took over 6 months ago, and I felt that there has been a remarkable change in the world. We all know about that change. And there's been a dramatic shift and change in focus of the citizenry of our own country. We are now, to borrow the title of Amartya Sen's book, argumentative in the most excruciating manner, arguing about everything all the time, seldom with any conclusions. But I thought that while we continue to argue, and there is no way that we can stop that argument, not even the likes of Ashutosh Varshney with his books can bring this argument to an end. If Jagdish Bhagwati and Amartya Sen are going to start arguing, then where is the chance for us to stop arguing? But the important thing is that while we are arguing about a lot of things, something may happen, may come out of it, we've lost sight. As citizens, we've lost sight of foreign policy. We know excursions that happen at the border sometimes, unwholesome incidents that happen on the other border sometimes, somebody switches off, somebody accuses us of something, and everyone then says that, you know, India has got such bad relations with all its neighbors. And I can tell you, I have been everywhere, and our relations are very good. Our relations are not bad. And if giving someone the confidence to be able to speak back to you and to speak to you frankly, to say that that's bad relations, then your idea of what good relations is not a very sensible idea. And I hate to think what your children have to go through if that's your idea of a good relationship. And I've often said that our relationship with our neighbors is very good. It's the relationship of our press that is not so good. So I can't do very much because that's not my mandate and I'm not supposed to look after it. But be that as it may, I think it's important for the Indian citizen to actually participate, understand, contribute, be critical of and appreciative of, if possible, of India's foreign policy. India's foreign policy, like the foreign policy of any other country, is essentially a self-proclamation and extension of your self-interest, national interest as we call it, that in the world, in your relationships in the world, so that you can get from the world the best for yourself and your people, and you can give to the world something that will give you stature, status, and a welcome wherever you go. And I do believe that India has consistently performed this task for itself. When I say India, I do mean India's representatives who've represented us with great distinction, the Foreign Service officers who've with great distinction represented us at the United Nations, at international fora, bilaterally, and brought to India, I believe, a remarkable stature and a remarkable presence in the world. In one form, first as part of the leaders, really, not just part, but leaders of the non-aligned movement, and then, of course, in more recent times, is an emerging economy, an economy that finds a place at the top table, the high table in G20, an economy that is today an economy without which no great decisions can be taken in the world. Everyone wants us to be on their side. Everyone hopes that we will not be on the other side. Everyone sees us as a relevant factor in decisions that have to be taken in the world. Of course, we would want a lot more to happen. We would want to be able to get the reform process in the United Nations through, to get a permanent seat in the Security Council, to make greater contributions to the WTO and to the discussions and debate on climate change. But unlike other countries that seem to exhibit an ambition to participate and to intervene in any hotspot conflict situation as intermediaries, as honest brokers, India has tried to acquire for itself a sense of engaged aloofness, if I may be allowed to use that oxymoron, which is that we like to be able to nudge and to suggest to people and to advise people in a comforting way as to what is good for them, for the world, and for our relationship. India is today out there in the Antarctic. India is today now part of the Arctic Council, contributing in the reaches of the extremes of the globe with scientific enterprise. And I was absolutely delighted when I went to Arctic to find that some of our young students there are doing in Svalbard, are doing some very distinguished work, and that some of our scientists are making major contributions. When we look around and see Syria, and we look around and see Iraq, and we look around and see Afghanistan or any other hotspot of the world today, people ask us why we do not engage more extensively and more intensely in what is happening there. Egypt, wherever there is trouble. It is not that we are not involved, it is not that we are not engaged, but we do not have ready solutions. Some people seem to have ready solutions for anything. We don't have ready solutions. These are extremely complicated situations. And we know they are complicated because we ourselves know what it is to be a complicated society. India has learnt from the complicated fiber of its society. India has learned to weave together a unity that has given us the strength to survive as a democracy, to survive some very extremely challenging moments. And we do believe that our experience can help other people. And we do believe that today we have acquired a stature in the world that we can speak to the United States of America and Iran at the same time. And that neither of them mind that we are able to speak to both of them. And neither of them, I hope, will not be able to say that we have let them down. We can disagree, but we are able to disagree in a manner that the other side accepts as being rational, reasonable, equitable, and fair. I think that is a very important factor, and this is we've been able to do by remaining a little bit aloof, but remaining engaged. There are no easy solutions to Egypt today, but we still continue to hope that there will be a solution. There are no easy solutions to Syria today, but if Geneva II takes place, and we hope and wish that it takes place, we will be willing to contribute if we are invited to the table to contribute. On Afghanistan, because Afghanistan has invited us, the Heart of Asia Conference invited us, we have made a major contribution, taken up one whole chunk of responsibility for rebuilding, rehabilitation of Afghanistan. And we can say categorically we can say that we don't have an exit mentality as far as Afghanistan is concerned, because Afghanistan will survive is our confidence as a prosperous, sovereign country. We have to make our contribution, because as friends, as colleagues in the neighborhood, and as a stabilizing factor for Asia, Afghanistan is very strong and is very important. And Afghanistan has played a very important role in India's history, and therefore India cannot look away, India cannot walk away. But there are ways in which we have to do it, and therefore we insist that Afghanistan must find its own solution. We cannot, nobody, no matter how much of a friend they claim to be, should be dictating something to Afghanistan. Afghanistan's solution and Afghanistan's road ahead must be Afghanistan-led, Afghanistan-owned, and Afghanistan-directed. And I think that's where the peace will lie. This is a vast spectrum. The United States of America and US and the Russian Federation. You know what relationship we had with the Russian Federation, even as part of the NAM movement, and you know how much dramatic changes have happened. But what we invested in terms of our friendship and relationship with the Russian Federation today is giving us rich dividends in our direct relationship with the Central Asian countries and countries that have emerged out of the dramatic change that has happened in the USSR, in the breakup of the USSR. And we continue to have the strongest relationship that two countries can have between India and the Russian Federation. We were, for years, seen as an estranged country. The scholars of the United States of American writing often talked of the estranged democracies, India and United States of America. Today we are strong strategic partners of United States of America, and a paradigm shift unbelievable in the past took place when the 123 civil nuclear agreement took place. Today, the advocacy for India in the four nuclear supplier regimes is done by United States of America amongst other major countries. Today, a host of countries, over 100 countries today, I believe, will be willing to stand up and say, let India be a permanent member of the Security Council. Now, that's a lot of things that we have earned because of generations of outstanding, brilliant people who've contributed to India's foreign policy. But now reflect back. Reflect back to the days of India's celebration of a special relationship with USSR. Reflect back to the days of Pandit Nehru, the one who coined the Indian foreign policy Sponge experiment. And you will remember that when somebody a guest visited India, a special guest visited India, the streets used to be lined by young students, by youth of India, waving flags and screaming a welcome. And then the public would gather, in lakhs people would gather to welcome the visiting dignitary. Today, security considerations, changing style of our life, modern media, technology, now there's a distance, and only those who are really interested will follow a program in the evening that tells you about the foreign policy implications of a particular visit or a particular bilateral interaction or a multilateral engagement that India has. An average Indian citizen doesn't seem any longer interested in foreign policy, which is understandable, to borrow from President Obama's phrase, it's the economy stupid. American phrase, is the economy stupid? It is true. The economy, the opportunity after reform that Indian citizens have of growing, the impatience of having to wait for delivery, all that is important. But so is foreign policy. If India has to play a role at the front line of the international community, if India has to sit at the high table, the Security Council, then India's people must endorse what India's politicians do. They must understand and support and participate and contribute. Not only when you have a little prickly situation between government of India and a different emphasis that is perceived to be necessary by people in Tamil Nadu, or for that matter, something that the people of Kerala might feel about the fact that the labor, large number of Indian labor that is in Saudi Arabia or somewhere else, has to suddenly conform to a very strict regime, or for that matter with somebody in Andhra Pradesh being concerned about young brides being married off to people living in the Middle East, or for that matter young professionals here in Bangalore worried about the H-1B visas being available to them or not in the United States of America, or for that matter somebody else in Punjab or somebody else in Haryana, cannot just be interested in one single issue. We have to be, as citizens, we have to be interested in India's perception of the globe and the globe's perception of India. Now, how do we do that? We have to do it by coming to you. And that's where we started. We picked the best that we had so that we would go to the best audience in the country, get the best possible response from that audience, and be encouraged then to go to other parts of India. And so we picked you, Bangalore. We picked you because truly, you are the best, and I don't need to persuade you, because you are the best. If I was saying you are the second best, then you would have said, well, convince us, tell us why not the best? But since I've said best, we can move on and say that this is part of a successful experiment that we have tried to do, and we will now go to the rest of the country. And obviously won't be able to come here every week, every month, every year perhaps won't be able to come, but you will now, I hope, know that there is something that is being done that you would want to pursue, and hope that hopefully a lot of you would then get onto our website, give us ideas, endorse what we are doing, perhaps criticize what we are doing, but criticize it in a manner that leaves intact the great consensus that is in this country. We are fortunate that despite political differences in this country, from the time of independence to now, we have maintained a grand consensus on foreign policy. And that's worked for us. And it will continue to work for us if we get the endorsement of the people. And the people will endorse only if we get them interested. And they will get interested only if we come and show to you how wonderful your representatives, how wonderful is the work that your representatives are doing for you. But of course you'll be attracted also if we are able to talk to you about things that really matter. What really matters is, again, obviously the economy. What really matters is what we are being able to do in terms of exports, what we are being able to do in terms of services, what we are being able to do in terms of earnings from abroad. How are we going to be able to encourage foreign direct investment, FIIs to come into India? How are we going to be able to ensure that you will go abroad more extensively and be able to explore livelihood options abroad? Now, it is not easy if two countries are under stress. United States of America is under stress because they have an unemployment issue. They have an issue of a rising debt. They have an issue of a fiscal cliff. They have a problem. We have a problem as well. Our problem is that we had enhanced our expectations with 8% growth, thinking that we will go to 10. But because of downturn in the world, we have slipped now to 6%, or perhaps a little less than 6%. We cannot afford to remain at 6. We need 8%. And each one of you cannot afford to work only in India. You have to explore the world. Now, of course, what we will need to do is that if avenues in the US do not open up, we have to open avenues in Europe. And if Europe avenues don't open up, we have to open up avenues in Southeast Asia. And if Southeast Asian avenues don't open up, we'll have to go and explore something in Africa. One thing that I hear repeatedly wherever I go in the world about that place is that China is ahead of us. Well, of course, China is ahead of us in income. China is ahead of us in population. China is ahead of us in terms of the years of reform. But no matter where I have gone, Everybody in Africa, in Europe, in Southeast Asia, in Central Asia, everybody has said, China comes with a lot of muscle power, China comes in with a lot of money, China comes in very aggressively, Chinese delegations run into hundreds of people, you come here with a delegation of 5 people, 6 people, you come here with money that cannot match China, but there is something special about India. What is special about India? And this is what an African president told me. What is special about India is that when you come here, we feel that we have known you for a very long time. We have known you for a very long time. And I said, and what does that mean? And he pushed the plate in front of me and he said, look, what's in that plate? It was a samosa. He said, you are as old as this samosa. And we feel that you are part of us, that you will come here and you will strengthen the roots that are already deep inside our soil. And therefore, the fruit that we get from you is tastier and sweeter. The fruit that we get from anybody else who comes is a fruit that's welcome. We are not going to reject anyone. We are not going to drive anyone away, particularly if they are coming with attractive offers. But there will always be something special about India. And I believe that for every thousands of dollars spent by any other country, including China, a very small smile from India can get us to be walking step to step with them and getting to the end of the race as quickly as they can. Because this is what India has meant to the world, to Africa, to Southeast Asia, to Central Asia. Even today, please believe you me, there are Raj Kapoor songs being sung and Mithun Chakravarti's dances being danced. And in more recent years, Shah Rukh Khan and Salman Khan's dialogues being repeated without knowing what they mean. Please find me in the world any society that sings Chinese songs with the same delight that Indian songs are sung. Right? So please don't think that we are less than anyone else. But as our Prime Minister has said, the world is large enough to give enough space for the aspirations of China and India. We are not against China. We have a very useful relationship with China. It's taking time to build step by step, layer by layer. And one day, India and China will be two very important, significant strategic partners. We are obviously aware and conscious of a history that is not very satisfactory, but we are also conscious of a present that is very meaningful. And our meetings of our leadership between China and India are always meetings that are useful, valuable, and I believe something that you can write home about and say, that was a wonderful, wonderful meeting. I went to China before the Chinese Premier came to this country, and I believe that I was given the kind of welcome that you get only amongst really good friends. Now, it's important that we can put this together. There are strengths that China has that we don't have, and there are strengths that we have that China doesn't have. And the most important thing is that China believes it needs to engage with India, just as India believes we should engage with China. We are not going to do this at behest of any other country. We will not do it to contain China. We will not do it to restrict China. And I hope that China will take the same view of us. So we are living truly in the spirit of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. We do believe the world is a family. In a family, sometimes there can be differences, but it is a world which is a family, and India wants to treat that world as a family. Sometimes we will have to give, and sometimes we will have to take. When we live in the neighborhood, we are the largest economy. And in this neighborhood as the largest economy, we will have to learn to make some sacrifices. We have to do something. I'd call it a sacrifice. I call it enlightened self-interest, to engage and to accommodate our neighbor Bangladesh. What is Bangladesh asking us today? Bangladesh, having contributed and having accommodated us on every security strategic issue, on everything, stood by us, solid as a rock. All they ask for today is that whatever Indira Gandhi and Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had signed several decades ago, which was then endorsed as a protocol by the Prime Minister of India and the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, which is an exchange of enclaves, a win-win situation for both countries, should now be done and implemented. People want to see this as an act of faith and trust between India and Bangladesh, and we need to do it. And if we are going to stand back because people start calculating who will get political benefit out of this at the next election, then we are betraying our country. Then we are betraying our leaders who gave to us a history that is unmatched and unparalleled in the world. The creation of an independent state as a friend in your neighborhood, which is what happened when Bangladesh was born. Every one of your ancestors were involved in that act of endorsement that India supported the birth pangs of Bangladesh. And today, if we don't continue to nurture that child with the same spirit of camaraderie that we had that day, then we would have let down not only our past, our present, but also betrayed our coming future. And I think this is where the people need to get involved. This is where it's not just important in conclaves and in closed halls or between two groups of bilateral delegations to find solutions. This is where the people must stand up with one voice and say, India must stand its moral ground. India must provide the moral leadership. India must make the commitment, fulfill the commitment that it had made. Look at Sri Lanka. It's the same thing. What do we expect of Sri Lanka? All we expect of Sri Lanka is that the compact made with India, which is that we will ensure and respect the sovereignty of Sri Lanka. But the Sri Lankan government and the Sri Lankan establishment would give equal dignity to all its people. All its people. That's all that we asked for, and that's all they promised that they would do. And if there can be differences about speed of implementation, we can sit down and talk about it. If there are disappointments, we can try to overcome that. But we can't play a role that we will tell a sovereign country how to run its affairs. We can advise, we can caution, we can even be critical at times, as indeed they can be of us. But at the end of the day, there must be no doubt that this is being done because we want to undermine the independence of another country. Whatever we do and whatever they do must be to consolidate independence and freedom, and to consolidate the friendship between two independent free countries, respecting each other, realizing that there's a history, realizing that there are implications in modern day politics, but at the end of the day, having broad enough shoulders to say our moral commitments will be met. Be it China, be it Pakistan, be it Bangladesh, be it Sri Lanka, or be it any country in the world. India has a moral voice. But a moral voice will sound weak if the people don't understand what the voice is, and if the people don't stand up and say, this is not the voice of 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 leaders, this is not the voice of just a few civil servants, this is indeed the voice of India. And the voice of India will come when Karnataka speaks, when Tamil Nadu speaks, when Andhra Pradesh speaks, when Kerala speaks, and Punjab speaks, and Haryana speaks, and Kashmir speaks, and Assam speaks, and Gujarat speaks, and my own state, UP and Bihar speak. When we all speak together, then the world will know that this is the voice of India, the voice of rationality, the voice of friendship, the voice of fairness, the very voice that stood up for Nelson Mandela, the very voice that stood up for Africa and Asia and its freedom, the very voice that stood up for freedom in Europe. That very voice today says, let us together build a better world. And for each one of you, there will be an issue. There will be an issue of what will happen to our visas to go to the United States of America. My answer is what I said to Secretary Kerry. I said to Secretary Kerry, we can't be good friends if we are going to complain about visa restrictions on each other. There may be compulsions. You have a problem of unemployment. We have a problem that is of deficit. We need to earn more dollars. You need to give more jobs. We'll find a way in between that will satisfy your people and our people. And he said, I agree. I didn't realize the problem was so serious. I agree. I must do something for you. But please, Mr. Minister, give me something that I can take back to America, to the United States of America, to the Senate, and say, India has done this for us. Now we've got to do something for India. That's how friends treat each other. We must learn to give and we must learn to take. Sometimes there'll be more giving. Sometimes there will be more taking. But that's what humanity is about. That's what human relations are about. That's the message that India wants to send. And that's the message for which we call for your support. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Honorable Minister for External Affairs has called upon all of us that we Indians are not inferior to anyone. Feel proud to be an Indian, so that all the states in unison, the voice is heard all over the world. Let's all give once again a huge round of applause for a highly inspiring and of course motivating that indeed we are all proud to be Indians. Thank you, sir. With the permission of the Honorable Minister, there are a few questions. The mic will come to you. Now, as he has said, that Bangalore is the best, Karnataka is the best, and hopefully the questions also will be the best, and be crisp, and let it be to the point. Yeah, kindly raise your hand. The mics will come to you, and the Honorable Minister will take the questions.
Hello, sir. Hi. I'm a research student from the Indian Institute of Science. My question is about climate change. There is a big problem in the Arctic Circle right now with global warming. There is an increased military presence of the United States, Canada. So what is India's stand in the Arctic Council? And are we pushing for an Arctic treaty similar to an Antarctic treaty where you delegate the land for purely scientific purposes, or are we pushing for military presence?
Well, you know the totality of issues involved in climate change. It's very clear, and everyone accepts it, that there is warming, perhaps just 1%, but there is warming, and the Arctic is getting affected. That there is an ice melt and the permafrost is melting, and that what will happen, in fact, is that some countries, I don't think India will get the benefit to the same extent, but some countries will benefit from the opening up of the northern route as far as shipping is concerned. And they are factoring that into the cost of fighting climate change. So we are very new entrants there. We have some scientific expertise available that we will make available to them. But the focus of our research right now in the Arctic is actually the impact of change of the temperature, the rise in temperature on the Himalayan glaciers. So we are actually studying it from that point of view today as far as the scientific contribution is concerned. We have a very small number of people there, and they are there only for the 4 months or 5 months of the year. When I visited there, we agreed that the Ministry of Earth Sciences will now ensure that there will be scientists around the year, that even during the night time, meaning 6 months of darkness, there will be our scientists, and that we will expand the area of our research. As far as the presence in the council is concerned, as I said, we've just come onto the council. I was the first visitor from India after we came onto the council, Arctic Council. So we will engage now in a wholesome discussion and discourse with other members to see what needs to be done for better protection of the Arctic. We are committed to protection of the Arctic because there is no other option for humanity but to protect the cap, the ice cap, both in the Arctic and the Antarctic. Of course, there are differences between those two. Fortunately, the Arctic, there is a little more clarity in terms of the control that there is, notional or otherwise control there is of countries there, and I would imagine that we would work very closely with them to find a regime that would be effective in terms of reversing the impact of climate change. But there's a lot of work to be done on climate change, as you know, between developing countries and developed countries. We are today pursuing at the best possible manner of ensuring that the developed world continues to fulfill its commitments and that it doesn't withdraw from its commitments. Essentially, it's a matter of equity, that if someone is telling us to cut down on emissions, we must have access to funding and we must have access to technology that compensates for the emissions that we take a cut on. We are not offending as much as China is, for instance, but then China is at a much higher level of growth, and Chinese are willing to talk bilaterally. We will also talk bilaterally, provided it meets with the principled position that we have taken in climate change talks, which is that there has to be a responsibility taken by everybody, but our responsibility cannot be the same as the responsibility of developed countries.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Chiranjeev Sen. I'm an academic. I teach at Ezimprim University. Just a couple of observations, suggestions. In the era of globalization, I feel as an academic that in our country we just don't have enough studies, international studies. Because if you really want people to engage in how to deal with region X, region Y, country X, country Y, if you compare us with other countries, you won't find specialized courses or studies except in a few places. So it's very important, I think, that if we really want to move in that direction, to create a climate in which people can actually specialize in different regions and study it well. Now there's a very small, probably, minority that does it. That's suggestion one. Suggestion two is that I think that in today's world, we really need to work much more strategically with young people, that is students. And we are always concerned about sending our students abroad. They can go and get a job abroad, etc. But as far as receiving students from outside, creating climate for them that is worthwhile, encouraging much more cooperation with international universities, I think we are lagging behind. And we definitely need to move to a situation where we have a large number of students coming to this country to study, because that's one of the best ways to sow the seeds of respect for this country. Thank you.
Well, I agree with your first suggestion without any qualification. As far as the second one is concerned, it's obviously very useful, but the only point is that it's a multidisciplinary thing. We have to look at HRD, we have to look at culture, we have to look at the Ministry of Health, for instance, because medical studies come under them. But we've made a beginning. We have two universities coming now, which are on the anvil.
Hello?
We have two universities now on the anvil, in fact, beyond the anvil. One is the South Asian University, which will soon get its own campus. It's being run in Delhi from the old Akbar Hotel. And then there is the Nalanda University. I visited there. Nalanda University will start its teaching later this year. And the competition for the design and so on will be completed by early next year. And the construction work will begin. Nalanda University will be obviously a watering hole for people working in interreligious studies and Buddhist studies and all related South Asian studies in a very major manner. But the South Asian University, virtually all the students coming from South Asia are on scholarship. Virtually all, 99% are on scholarship. Our iTech program is bringing in a lot of people. We have a lot of exchange program in which young people are coming, young journalists are coming, young opinion makers are coming, young parliamentarians are coming. But I certainly agree that there should be a much greater influx of students coming in and studying in Indian universities. Why not even schools? That there should be exchange programs between schools where students come, if not for a long time, at least for a year or two, and spend that year or two here, because the stamp that India puts on them in those formative years will last a lifetime. And I think this is a good idea, but you must remember that there is always a section that resists opening up of the university system. You have to open up university system if you want to bring in people from outside. The fee structure, the faculty salary structure, the admission structure, many other issues will have to be resolved. Even in Nalanda and South Asian universities, the traditional things that control universities in our country are being considered as being irrelevant. And there are people who are saying, how can you depart from the Indian scheme of things simply because you have foreigners coming and studying here? I think we just have to understand that everything cannot come in terms of benefits immediately. Some benefits will be long-term benefits, and those long-term benefits will be very useful. When I speak to someone in Africa and they then smile and say, don't need to tell me, I did my degree in Bombay or I did my degree in JNU, I know half the battle is won. And if we can continue with this, I believe that we will be a far more successful nation. But again, we need endorsement of the people. We need people to understand why this is necessary, why we want to do it, and then support it fully, so that if there is an element in our society, in our country that opposes it, that element will democratically be told that they are in a minority and they cannot have their way.
Mr. Minister, my name is S.L. Rao. You mentioned Bangladesh, and the Secretary was kind enough to remind us that foreign policy is a settled subject. I'm quite appalled that we allowed in the central government the West Bengal government to overrule an agreement on the Teesta River. And with the change of government very likely, if this continues by next year, surely we need to do something about this and not allow state governments to overrule us.
We've just shown a little chivalry. We haven't allowed them to overrule us. This is not the last chapter. There is an interim agreement, but a final agreement has to be entered. We are building consensus. I'm in touch with MPs from the ruling party in Bengal and also the opposition party in Bengal. We have some targets in mind. We hope to be able to meet those targets. I believe that something of such a historical nature, if it could get across the board support of everybody, even if some people come a little reluctantly, but finally we have everybody's support, it would be a better message and a better picture as far as Bangladesh is concerned. But I can assure you, haven't gone back from our commitment. I have only recently told the foreign minister, she was in Delhi 2 days ago, Deepa Moni, I have told her that both on the land boundary agreement and the Teesta agreement, we are completely, totally, utterly committed. We are just trying to see that they can get the maximum consensus, and then we'll do it in a nice way.
1 minute. Sir, you go ahead with your question. I'll come to you, sir.
Better educated about foreign policy and its impact on India, on what we people are doing in India. But there is one point, and actually Mr. Rao has taken a little bit of what I wanted to say, but I'll still say the rest of it, and that is that when we have these issues, such as in Bangladesh, which concern really the people of India, of course they concern more the people of Bengal, but in a wider sense the people of India, we find that whatever public policy discussions we have like this, which we open out to the public as it were, not confined to the offices or to the parliament chambers, nothing of what we all think comes true, fructifies anywhere. In other words, suppose, for argument's sake, there is a groundswell in India in favor of exchange of those enclaves and also the Teesta agreement. But how do we make it known? Because for 2 years or 3 years, this impasse has continued. And I noted what you said a little earlier, but in spite of all these efforts, nothing seems to happen. Now, elections in Bangladesh are due very soon, and this could be crucial. The results of that election could be crucial for the future of India-Bangladesh relations. There is very little that groups like ours, however well-intentioned or however well-informed some of them may be, there's very little that we can do towards furthering this progress. Now, this is going to be a bit of a dilemma when we have foreign policy and we have its implications thrown open for public discussion, because the follow-up has to be done in Delhi or in Parliament, whatever it is, and that's not in our hands.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head. The follow-up obviously has to be done within the confines of government and Parliament. But when there is groundswell of support, when there is public discourse and discussion, it gives us strength. Whoever wants to push through that policy, it gives them strength, because there's across the board support. And if there is public support, media support will come as well. I believe there's reflection in the media in the last 3 or 4 weeks about the editorials that are being written and discussions that are taking place. There is fairly extensive support for India proceeding to complete the unfinished task of the agreement on the land boundary and on Teesta. But the problem is that we were not even talking about it. I mean, I know that this is the first time that we have talked to so many people about this. I've never talked to, and I don't know if my predecessors ever talked to people about this, because foreign policy was considered to be something confined to back rooms and confined to conference halls, etc. But I do believe that it's important that we should make foreign policy an important issue of democracy. It is an issue of democracy, and it should be pushed as an issue of democracy. If we want democracy to get rooted deeply in Bangladesh, we should do this, because this is part of their democratic perception. So we should do it. And we are doing something that we have nothing to lose from. There is nothing that we are giving away that they don't have today. Even on Teesta, the water is flowing to Bangladesh today. All we are doing is we are making an arrangement which is of a temporary nature, provisional nature, for the next 15 years in order to study what will be the impact of the water used by them and us, and any other new uses that we may get as we go along. But unfortunately, because we didn't bring this out into the public enough, there wasn't a public support for it, and this remained confined to a few people. It's my effort and attempt to try and bring these issues, and not just these issues, many other issues, to the public, bring it to, at least to begin with, opinion makers, who then can translate this further into even larger. And then we did a program recently on television. It was a Hindi program. For 4 hours, senior officers of the Ministry of External Affairs went on CNN, IBN or something, one of those programs, and then finally at 1 o'clock in the afternoon I went for half an hour, and we spoke in Hindi about India's foreign policy, because people should not think that foreign policy is spoken only in the English language. Foreign policy must be spoken in the language of the ordinary people of our country. So this is a beginning that we've made. The very fact that we have you here tells me that we've made the right beginning, but we'll have to do a lot more.
Yeah, go ahead. Next is your questions. Yeah, 2 questions. Yeah, now we go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Vijay. I'm from News Nation. My question moves from east to west. In the last 2 decades, we've had 2 issues where bilateral talks between India and Pakistan have hit the roadblock. First was after the Kargil, and second after 26/11. How do you see these relationships? Because Pakistan being a very crucial and important neighbor for us, how do you see your ministry and your department taking talks forward to be able to get a better understanding of each other?
See, when you think of Pakistan policy, we have to keep in mind one truth, which is you can't wish away a neighbor. You can choose friends, you can't choose neighbors. This is one point of reference. The second point of reference is that whatever Pakistan does is obviously largely to do with their internal politics and the structure of their government, which changes a little bit from time to time. As any democracy, there are changes that take place. But there are some rooted, inherent features of their government that we have to factor in when we talk about our policy on Pakistan. But every time there's an opening given by them, and an opening objectively possible, we haven't rejected it, we haven't repudiated it, but experience has taught us to be a little careful. It is important that if we want to carry public opinion with us to move forward with Pakistan, there are some points of deep hurt felt by the Indian people. That is our responsibility to ensure are at least attempted to be addressed, so that there is greater public confidence. Confidence building measures are not necessary only between the two governments, but are also necessary between Pakistan as a whole and the people of India. And that's what we are doing, that we are ensuring that we keep options open, that we are willing to help them where they need our help, but with constant reminders that it is important that unqualified movement forward will be possible only if we have addressed a sense of concern that has been felt by the people of India because of some recent extremely unwholesome incidents that happened, for which the present government can claim it's not responsible because they were not in power, but they have to be, as successor government, responsible for what happened and be ready and willing to do something that addresses the hurt. I believe today, I can say this with a present sense and instinct, that they will try. They will try, and we will help them try. Now let's wait and see what happens.
Yes. Some people are of the view that given India's civilizational depth, we have not done as much as China has to project our cultural and soft power. For example, China has opened a number of Confucius institutes around the world, a number of seats of higher learning. And given our civilizational depth, we haven't done as much. This view may not be totally accurate, but I would like your comments on that.
I think your view is reasonably accurate. It's true. They have opened at least 100 Confucius centers, and they are very well furnished and well provided. We have far less. We are hoping to open many more, but there is a funding crunch. I think we do take for granted an advantage that we have in soft diplomacy. We have a natural advantage in soft diplomacy. China has to work much harder in soft diplomacy, but the advantage doesn't remain for very long. So we have to continue ensuring that our advantage remains intact. We are doing a massive Europalia event in Europe later this year. The President of India will go for it. Now we have opening, even recently we've opened 2 or 3 new ICCR centers, overseas centers, but many more are required. But I believe if we individually continue to support India's presence in the world the way we are there today, we would be halfway to the line, the finishing line. We can keep China in mind, but I don't think we should either be jealous or envious or paranoid or overtly concerned. Every country has a right. British Council has offices everywhere. We don't seem to talk about them. We don't even worry about, they speak better English than we do. Yesterday, there was a whole program that Arnav was talking about what we should do with English. Now, they can decide what they want to do with the English language, but let me tell you this. Vietnam and Laos have turned to us for teaching of English to their civil servants and not to the UK. So we must be speaking better English, I don't know, but something. So we have a natural advantage. We have a natural advantage. We just need to keep that natural advantage intact. Some money is required. You can't, army can't march on an empty stomach, I know. So the army of, the cultural army of India, which is a very significant part of our foreign policy and our self-esteem, requires some diet, some food, and I'm going to continue pleading with Mr. Chidambaram to give us a little more. I'll stand there like Oliver Twist saying, please sir, can I have some more? And we will get there.
Yeah, after this question, we'll go to the back. Sir, there are a lot of youth students who have come from different colleges. After your question, we'll go to the back.
Please.
Yeah, right.
My name is Major General Paul, retired 23 years back, but don't get me wrong, I still feel I'm in service. Now, we couldn't speak earlier in the open when we were in uniform. Now, today I got a chance to talk to you, sir. As regards Indo-China relationship, whenever some incursion takes place, why do we take 3-4 days to react officially? After media has really bashed populace feels that what army is doing, but army can't do anything unless there is a policy decision.
Yeah.
Secondly, I have that in the past, in 1986, a general from Karnataka, General Narari, was the corps commander in Arunachal Pradesh. There has been incursion, repeated incursion. He garroted them, he fired at them, and he threw them out. Next 10 years in that area, there has not been incursion, but General Narahari lost the chance of becoming army commander. So that's what happens. Now, one point about terrorism. Whenever any terrorism takes place, why do we take the name of any organization? We should be tell CBI or other investigation agencies that go for the person concerned. Now, if we take the name of any organization, cutting across all sections, then what happens? The organization feels important. We should not mention any organization, name whom we have caught, irrespective of who they are. That's my humble suggestion. Next is, why don't we solve long-term problem?
Sir, if you ask so many questions together, it will be difficult.
This is the last. Why don't you from Kashmir and Northeast totally? See, there is nowhere in the world, for 65 years, there is a standing army along the border. So this is for your consideration, sir.
Yeah.
Well, the first one, I don't want to, I don't want to match my knowledge of the line of actual control or the border with yours, because you've been in uniform yourself. But my understanding, I will tell you, is that there is a difference of perception about the line of actual control. Funnily, the line of control on the Pakistan side is better defined than the line of actual control on the Chinese side. Although it says it's the line of actual control. There is a difference of perception. We haven't been able to demarcate the line because talks about demarcation are going on. And they've been very slow and laborious, but they've been going on. When somebody indulges in what is called an incursion, which should really be intrusion from either side, it's not always clear that they're doing it deliberately, they're doing it negligently, or they're doing it unwittingly, because the line is not demarcated. There are people who can sit there and tell you this place has always been considered ours, this place has always been considered theirs, etc. They can argue about that. But it may also be that periodically local commanders or local troops decide they want to have some fun. And they say, let's go and test what the Indians will do. And Indian people say, let's test what the Chinese would do. But I'm telling you a secret now. The army people tell us that if you and the press would leave us alone, we will solve the problem within hours. But when you get involved, it takes days. When the press gets involved, it takes months. So that is the reason, because everything becomes amplified, And then everyone feels, if I take 2 steps back, I will lose face. If you take 2 steps back, I will gain face, etc. So that starts again and again. But I don't think that there is a serious problem, because we have in place a mechanism with the Chinese that allows us to resolve these problems. They have been resolved in the past. They were resolved even when everybody said they won't get resolved. So I don't think that there is a serious cause for worry. But need for vigilance, yes. And we are vigilant. And whatever our troops, whatever our men require at the border, we are committed to giving them everything. But what we are giving them would not be fair for me to announce here, because that, would not be a very sensible thing to do. So that's the first point. The second point about terrorism, why do we take their name? I don't know. There are 2 views in the world. In European and American reporting, if a black man does something, some people think you should report. Otherwise, people will think whatever has happened has been done by a black man. In some cases, they think if you keep saying black man did this, black people will get a bad name. So you should say a white man has done this. Now they say a Caucasian has done it, or a non-Caucasian has done it. There are views in journalism to which I don't think there is an ultimate answer. I believe, and I have said this recently, that terrorism is terrorism. And a terrorist is a terrorist. I don't care what his name is. I don't care what his organization is. I don't care what his religion is. I don't care what language he speaks. A terrorist is a terrorist, and a terrorist is an enemy of humanity. And I think that's what we should be saying. But there must be for the intelligence agency or other agencies a reason why they believe information should be given in order to prevent undue speculation from taking place. So I think that's the reason, but it's best left to the security agencies to handle. Finally, about Kashmir and Northeast and so on, I don't know. I mean, there are places where forces have remained for a very long time. It's a very complex situation. And our forces are there not because they're there to oppress anyone. Our forces are there because that's the border. And the border has been insecure. And there has been infiltration across the border repeatedly to hurt us. So our forces have to be there for that reason. Of course, how much force you would have from time to time, where you would deploy your force, whether at the frontier the force would be there or the force would be within, these are very difficult questions that your army commanders have to decide in consultation, of course, with the political authorities. Now, which commander has acted and which commander hasn't acted, I don't know. It's good for you people to decide. I think we've had some outstanding commanders who've been extremely well thought of in the Kashmir Valley. Commanders of the Indian Army who are extremely popular. And there are some people even from the police who are not very popular. Now, that depends on how you present yourself to the people. It's a difficult job. It's a difficult job to conduct yourself when there is disquiet amongst the civilian population for whatever reason. It's a difficult job. In that sense, it's easier job to just be in the army uniform, handling the enemy, an alien enemy. But handling your own people is much more difficult. And I think the fact that you remain engaged and you consider yourself still in service, I think that you cannot speak any further. In service, you have to restrict yourself to this level. Thank you.
Right, yeah, there, yes.
Good evening. So my question, I'm Tushar from Jain University. My question would be regarding Edward Snowden. So I would like to know on what grounds did we refuse asylum to Edward Snowden? Is it because we have the bigger brother image of US being,
You're talking about the gentleman who's in Moscow airport?
I guess.
Yeah, same guy, no?
Yeah, so, I mean, you did talk about our responsibility being to humanity first, right? And consequently human liberty. So, on what grounds did we refuse?
No, we don't have a regular policy for giving asylums. We have given. It's not that we haven't given in the past, but very selectively. And I don't know if any country gives asylum to people from a friendly country. I don't know of any such case. Generally, you give asylum, and asylum seekers seek asylum to a country that doesn't get along with the country that you belong to. But India has gone much further. India has at least accommodated the wishes of people from friendly countries from time to time when it has been found that there is some value in their aspiration and their wish. We have, if temporarily or permanently or whatever. But I think as a general human conduct and behavior, you wouldn't want to upset a friend. You wouldn't want to upset a friend by taking and giving shelter to someone who is abusing your friend, rightly or wrongly. The second thing is that we have been extremely upset where somebody has not allowed an Indian who is wanted in India to be returned to India for a criminal offense. So I think as a matter of principle, where we respect the legal system of a country, and we have no reason to believe that the legal system is unfair, as we think our legal system must be respected, we cannot give shelter to someone to escape from that legal system. We can argue and advocate the case of that person. I'm not sure that that gentleman had done any great service to India in the past, that we should have shown much concern. And nor are we in a position to say that he will not get proper treatment in the United States of America. Because even those that we want back here are getting proper treatment. Apparently, we're not being able to get them back here. So I don't think this has anything to do with an unprincipled position. I don't think that the case really compelled or persuaded us that this is the case. And we couldn't have been very wrong because not many people are offering. There are some countries that are offering help to him, but the countries that are offering help to him are not well disposed towards the United States of America.
So it's not about the person, it's about the diplomacy.
No, nothing to do with person at all. It's totally principle.
Yeah, there. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
I don't know you.
I'm from Africa, and I'm from West Africa, and I study in Indian Institute of Science. I just want to bring you to two problems that prospective students from Africa face, or from even Middle East. Is the issue of getting a research visa. To get a research visa from India Home Ministry abroad, especially from students from the Middle East, can take 6 to 9 months. And even some of us that are here, the local foreign relation office cannot extend our visa beyond some certain point, some certain years. And then even when we go back home to take a new visa, they send us back, they give us 1 month, go back to India and do it there. So,
I'll be grateful to you. I'll be grateful if you just put down for me on a paper, you put down for me what the difficulty is, so that I can have that difficulty addressed. I know there are difficulties on both sides about visas. We are trying as much as possible to make visa as easy as possible. A lot of countries will now offer visa on arrival. But whatever problem you face as a student, right from the beginning to now and for extension, please give it to me on a piece of paper. I will certainly have it examined and do the utmost to ensure that you have the least difficulty.
We'll just have 3 more questions. Yeah, gentleman there at the back. Yes.
So, my name is Abhishek Anand Sinha. I'm a final year student of the prestigious NLS Bangalore, whom you know very closely. Sir, the question which I'm putting forth is not only to a person who is Minister for External Affairs, but also who is very much extolled for giving answers pretty straight. Sir, this is in the light of the recent judgment of the Supreme Court.
I get into a lot of trouble for that, but anyway, I'll try.
Sir, this is in the light of the recent judgment of the Supreme Court, which which might invigorate the whole electoral process. Wherein the Supreme Court pronounced that all those who are convicted are actually barred from contesting elections. So my simple question to you is, so why can't we actually empower the citizen, the polity, to right to reject the candidates who have criminal or questionable antecedents? So, and with this, sir, I just want to add what Mr. President Obama said. Economy might be stupid, but the polity is certainly not. Thank you.
It's what you've said is smacks of idealism, and I admire it, and I salute you for it. But the very reason why this debate has ignited again and again is because polity, for one reason or another, is unable to prevent some terrible people from getting elected. And therefore it became necessary to introduce laws from time to time, and those laws exclude some people or attempt to exclude some people. Now the court has said, you are not doing enough, so we will have to now do something, that till such time as a person who is convicted is not actually acquitted, he must take a little holiday. He must stay away. This is what the court has said. Now, the test of this will be how many people are excluded by voters and how many people are excluded by courts. I think it has to be a balance of both. If somebody gets excluded from an electoral process and the popularity is such that his wife gets elected, then you have a serious problem. I mean, it's happened in this country, and it will continue to happen in this country for a while, because you have to study the voting system. The voting system has imperfections. The exercise of choice has imperfections. And because of those imperfections, you cannot make a perfect choice. Therefore, the court does a little to help you improve your choice. Now, you may like it, you may not like it. If you don't like it, you will vote that out as well. And you will bring in people who will change what the Supreme Court has said. So I think this is an area of great difficulty, where you have to rely on your instincts, but also on your practical knowledge of how elections take place, where we can intervene, where we should intervene, and where we shouldn't intervene. I think it will be a nice world if there were no criminals, and if there were less of them in politics. But you know, it's a very unpopular thing to say in some parts of India. So let's take our chance.
Yeah, just that question, then we come to the front. Yeah, last, you.
Good evening, sir. My name is Janardhan, and I'm also from National School. My concern, which arises from the critique of the Ministry of External Affairs, is regarding the way the external affairs or the diplomacy works as far as India is concerned. Because India has so far been in a very good relationship with countries which are selected few. But when it comes to countries which are going to be the future in this globalized economy, India has been often been criticized for not giving much importance to these ties. So could you want to comment on that?
If you give me an example of which country we don't give any importance to.
To start with, though you mentioned a lot of the relationship which we are building with Africa right now, but there has been criticism that India has been just picking up the leftovers which China has left out.
No, I've been to Africa twice in 6 months. I will be going to Africa again. The Vice President has been to the African Union celebration in Ethiopia. I have to do North Africa. I will do North Africa as well. I believe that Africa is of the greatest importance to us today, as it has been in the past as well. I think we share a lot with Africa. I think we are most welcome in Africa. We have a great deal to contribute to Africa, and the biggest assistance that we give to any part of the world is to Africa. The very soft loans that we give by way of lines of credit, we are giving to Africa. So Africa is very important for us, absolutely no doubt. And we do believe that the future in many, many ways does lie with Africa. We want to be able to be close partners of Africa. But our idea of collaborating with Africa or working with Africa is as development partners. We don't want to exercise influence in Africa. We want to be their development partners, and we want to share in the story of their growth and help the story of their growth to the extent that our capacity allows it.
So just in addition to this, my concern is also regarding India's relationship with Central and South American countries, where I think India is not having that much of relationships.
Some of our best ambassadors are now getting posted to Central and South Asian African countries, and I will keep this in mind when I'm looking at the list of people being posted there. I will keep this in mind. Only 2 months ago, I went to Uganda in Kampala. I called all the Indian heads of mission, and we had 2 whole days of an exercise looking at the future of Africa, India's strategy vis-a-vis Africa, India's contribution, and India's commitment. And I will keep in mind as I look forward to what is happening, what is to be done in Africa. I will remember that you flagged it for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Sir, we'll just take that question, and the last question will be yours, sir. Yeah, go. This is the penultimate question. Yeah.
Hello, sir. I'm Hari Nilesh from Jain University. First, my extreme condolences for the sad demise of your father recently.
Thank you.
My question is, the recent 38th US-India Business Council Leadership Summit, there was a discussion covered between Mr. Ron Somers and Mr. Chidambaram regarding the preferential market access policy. Soon after that, on July 11th, there was a Prime Minister's Office announcement saying that the policy is put on hold for review. My question is that, what is your opinion on this? Was the announcement from the Prime Minister's Office serving someone's interests?
No. Well, see, every announcement has to serve somebody's interest. But it has to be, a question has to be, is it a legitimate interest or an illegitimate interest? And what comes from the Prime Minister's office will be a legitimate interest. Some section, some group, some lobby, some expectation has to be satisfied after considering as to what is the fairest and the best decision that can be taken in the national interest. But somebody will benefit from it. And whoever is able to benefit from it, if they can recognize that they are getting a benefit and they must therefore do more for the country, then as a matter of decision of public policy, it turns out to be right. Now, Mr. Chidambaram, the Finance Minister and the PMO were working very closely together for that very important event where we had to go to communicate with the American business and industry that their concerns were either unwarranted or concerns that we were willing to address, but that we required some time to address it. And I think the conclusion that were drawn from that, what was indeed an important and a useful meeting, and a meeting with positive content, were projected by the Prime Minister's office so that more people would get to know about it. Still a lot of work has to be done. Whatever we have put down as the agenda still has to be fulfilled. And that's why I said in the months to come, a lot of these decisions will be taken by Mr. Chidambaram and then announced to the public. But they will be in the national interest. Unless we make a mistake unknowingly and innocently, whatever we do will be categorically in national interest.
Yes, sir. The last question.
My compliments to you for a wonderful presentation. My point is about medicine being used as a tool for diplomacy. I think there's a lot of scope for India to be able to offer its medical potential to other countries as part of a diplomatic effort. Now, I know that there has been some little effort in this here and there, but I think a more concerted kind of an effort would probably yield very good results, particularly in this geopolitical area.
Yeah, medical area is one area, both in terms of outreach, what we can do with provide outstanding medical services in countries where we believe we have a contribution to make, and also providing in India top-class medical services so that people can come to India. A large number of people from the Middle East are coming to India. People from Africa are coming to India for treatment. And I think that they are getting a lot of satisfaction. And I believe that this is an area of expertise that India can offer and India should offer more extensively. And if we can be of help in this, we would be happy to be of help in this. They strangely call it medical tourism. I mean, it's hardly tourism if you're going to present yourself to a doctor to cut you up, but that's how they call it. So we'll go soft as well and call it medical tourism.
I am Dr. Parmesh, pediatric pulmonologist. My question related to yellow fever, sir. Bangalore, one hospital, Lakeside Hospital, made as a quarantine place.
I'm inoculated.
I know. But question is, many people from here, they go there to the countries where they are not needed. When they come back, customs has rolled them.
I was told this.
Yes,
I have made a note. We will talk to the health minister. There is some shortage, I believe, of the vaccine, and therefore people have to wait in queue and so on and so forth. I will speak to the health minister, and if we need to import vaccine on an urgent basis, we will do it. But I will discuss this with the health minister.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With this, we come to the end of the Q&A. Sorry that we couldn't take all the questions, but then you can always pose your queries on the website, and definitely you'll get the reply from the concerned authorities. Before we close the podium function, I would request Sri N.A. Harris for the concluding remarks and vote of thanks.
Good evening to everyone here. I think we had a very wonderful session today. The address by the Central External Affairs Minister, Sri Salman Khurshid-ji, regarding the policy making. And of course, my friend, our Minister, Dinesh Gunrao, and our Chief Secretary, Sri S.V. Ranganath, and all the other dignitaries, friends, and students. I just would like to conclude by just saying that Minister mentioned very clearly, you can choose your friends, but not your neighbors. I think the policies become stronger that we make our neighbors as our friends. That will change the entire system for the whole. So, I think it's a best effort by the ministry to bring out the best of policies to outbid everyone. Whether it is China or whether it is US, India should stand as number one. That is what we want. And I think that is what the ministry is trying to. We know, as some of the youngsters said, about the big brother. Yes, we all know that, but India has to outbid the big brother. I think time will prove that, and we will surely do that one. I thank all of you. I thank the minister for bringing this program to Karnataka and especially to Bangalore. I thank him, and I thank Mr. Dinesh Gunrao, the Minister for Food and Civil Supplies, Government of Karnataka. I thank the Chief Secretary, S.V. Ranganath, and all the bureaucrats and the officials, dignitaries, our central government secretary here, and everyone, all the ladies and gentlemen, I thank all of you on behalf. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.
I would request all the students to kindly stay back for a moment. Please do not rush. Let the front row gentlemen and dignitaries go out. Let's all thank once again Sri Salman Khurshid sir for his presence. Let's give a round of applause to Salman Khurshid ji, Sri Dinesh Gunrao, Sri N.A. Harris, and of course not to forget Sri Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, the Secretary Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, and also the Chief Secretary Government of Karnataka, Sri S.V. Ranganath, and a host of dignitaries. Dhanyavadalu, namaskara.